Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of our show called Two Guys Talking About Stuff. And what we're going to be talking about specifically with Warcraft is we're going to talk about the legendaries and how we feel that they are affecting us. So, throughout the whole entire time Warcraft has been around, there's always been legendary items that have been sprinkled in here and there. And it's been happening since the beginning of the expansion, beginning of the expansion, since the launch of the game to the present expansion. There has been a handful of different types of legendaries that have been placed throughout the whole entire expansion. I did it again. The whole entire game, and well, we kind of both felt that, there are some interesting points that we would like to bring up involving these legendaries, specifically on, how we feel about them, how we think they're interacting, how good they will be to everybody, and all these little sprinkles of information. I like to call them little sprinkles. So anyway, this is sprinkles, like I'm putting them on a cupcake. I don't know why.
Love
Um,
that.
I don't know about you guys, but if you guys are watching the video portion of this, it would be hilarious because I'm Italian. What do you want from me? I have to use my hands. So anyhow,
Hey.
hey, sprinkles. So I'm here once again with my friend Moggom here, and Moggom, how are you doing, good sir?
Good. Back
Good.
at it. New
Back
week.
new week.
Had a birthday party over the weekend for the middle child, so that's always exciting.
Yes, yes. Did anybody get smacked in the face with cake or pie?
No,
No. Oh.
they only had cupcakes. They're not allowed to. We just had our lift of the mask, so now they're allowed to have food and other stuff.
Oh.
So
Oh.
yes, it was very exciting. So
Very
they
exciting.
so they had cupcakes is what they have. They don't let you bring in food.
Oh well. Why would they?
Well,
But
they
cupcakes are
can
probably easier.
they can wrap it up in a nice little bow there with everything included. We can charge you more for it.
Yes, yes. One less thing that you have to worry about.
Oh yeah, I mean, I that was the benefit I enjoyed was that I didn't have to deal with any of it. I could just show up, and they had it all taken care of.
Show up and they could do it all for me. Exactly. Well, good, good. Happy that you had a good weekend and everything was well.
Yeah.
Uh,
How about
every,
yourself?
everything was good for me. We spent on Saturday we did my mom's birthday. On Sunday we did a belated birthday for my wife with my in-laws. So it was good. It was a busy weekend, but things are kind of, I think, finally settling down. Things are kind of good. So yeah, things are well. Things are well. So now on to the topic of legendaries. Now, I personally would say that legendaries have a bunch of positive and negative things about them. Um, but I'm like right on that like little list of ranting. So
Go
I'm
ahead.
not gonna go first. I will let you go
No, go
first.
ahead. Let's hear it.
No, no, no. I want you to go first. Your thoughts on how legendaries are. For let's start with the progression of them for you. How do you feel like they started back in vanilla, aka classic, whatever you want to call it, Warcraft, to how they progressed to how they are now? How do you feel about them?
Well, I think originally they were meant to be a rare drop that only a select few actually obtained, and that was a really cool feeling if you obtained. Like I know on my server, I was second to get the Thunder Fury from everyone. So that was kind of like one of those things. Yeah, that's how long I've been playing. I know. It was a cool feeling when you got it because nobody had it. Same with like Hand of Rag when you go down like the Warglaives and Burning Crusade. Shadowmoor. Like there was like a certain feeling people had when they got them. The negative point of it was is that only a handful of people had it, or you had to select one person in your raid compared to now. where now the rarity of it's gone, but it still gives you the benefit of having it. And so I see both sides of why they went away from it, but my issue is I think that they've done that with everything. So, I really enjoyed the original legendaries. Like I'm looking at them, I really enjoyed them. Like my favorite one still was Thunder Fury. I think that the look of the weapon itself, the proc, the look, the tornadoes, like nothing compared to what the feeling that gave you when you, even if you weren't wearing it, when you saw the tornadoes, you were like, oh my god, that's awesome. And it's slowly gone down in a way, and it just doesn't have the same feeling anymore. Now you're like, oh, look, which legendary are you putting on today? So, I think that there's been a progression of, instead of it being 100% raid based, really rare, it's gone to everybody gets a variation, everybody gets their version. And I do think it's better with you being able to choose your legendary that you put on, compared to, let's say, even wasn't it last expansion where you had a cloak and it was just the same for everybody? It felt like there was no uniqueness to it at
Right,
all.
right.
The only downside is that basically everyone uses the same legendary. They've made it to where it's not like, oh, you have one of 5 options and they're all really good. It's one of one, and the
Hmm.
rest of them are backup, maybe situational legendaries. So there really isn't a variation, even though there is. I think
Hmm.
that's the one downside, is that it's not really interchangeable for most classes. Most classes have one and that's it. So, I mean, I would say that's my opinion. That I see both sides. I, I would say, wasn't the weapons legendary at one point, or were they not considered legendary? Were they
Well,
just artifacts?
Had legendaries, so
They were
they
weapons.
were all the weapons. And
Because
then
Legion had all the
and
random legendaries. I don't think the weapons were considered legendary.
no, they had both. Legion, and correct me, chat, if we are wrong, because I think that's the one expansion we both had a little bit of a hiatus on.
Well, no, I played it. I just thought they were
I
artifact weapons, and
the
it was
artifact
legendary
weapons,
gear.
were they were a little bit different than legendary. I would still classify them as the same,
Okay, and
because
that's fine.
they had some special uniqueness to
And
them,
to
and
me, that
then you
was the
got
best.
legendaries later on in the expansion, that would help you do certain things.
And I feel like that was the best they ever did with weapons, because one of the issues that I've always had is that melee classes are really based around what weapons they have. If you have bad drops, bad rolls, bad luck, you're not going to have the weapons, and you're sitting and you're way behind other people who have got them. I think range can kind of get away with it on some level because it's not legitimately weapon damage. And I think that the legendaries they had, if you want to consider them legendaries in Legion, it eliminated that. Everybody had an even playing field with their weapons, to where everyone got to see their numbers where they were, and they weren't just crossing their fingers that either a weapon dropped in the vaults or on a boss. And so I kind of liked that version of it, because you didn't feel that that pain point of the
Mm-hmm.
weapons.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my opinion. What about you?
That's your opinion.
And I'm
So
sticking to it.
that's your opinion, and you're sticking to it. Um, See, what I thought was one of the coolest things was when we were in Vanilla WoW, and you and I were in the same raid, and you would be smacking the target with your Thunder Fury, and I would be hitting the same target with a Thunder Fury, and you just see the proc go off nonstop, and it was just this feeling of like, yeah, I have this weapon, I earned this weapon, I busted my ass for this weapon,
It was like a
and
30% proc rate, wasn't it, or something like that?
it was
35%. It was crazy high.
it was really high, and that thing went off like every single time. And it not only did it hit the first guy, it always like
Everybody,
it hit like 2 other guys after that. So, and you just see tornadoes.
I loved it.
I loved it too.
Still love
So
it.
I still love it. I still love the feeling of it. You see how excited I am right now thinking about the
Yeah.
weapon. But anyway, so I feel that there are weapons that when they started, they wanted them to feel like they were vastly more unique to the individuals. So when you have these weapons that were very, very unique to the individual, it was a feeling of, I think, a little bit of like unequal player base happiness because, the Thunder Fury was only allowed to go to essentially rogues and warriors, and they wouldn't give it to a mage or any other
Hunters.
or hunter, any other
Yes.
sword build wielding class. So they would never give them to them. So it made it so that they didn't have that option. So they started, I feel like, they started realizing that around Firelands, people I don't think would be 100% happy with only one individual class getting it. Because if you think about it, you have the Thunder Fury, the Handarag, the Ashish, just in classic off the top of my head. Then you got Illidan's Warglaves, were in Burning Crusade,
We also had Thoradol,
which is which
the staff, the bow, whatever bow
and the
staff.
bow and the bow, yes. So you had the bow. Then you had
But then in Wrath, they kind of went away from it because they had Shadowmourne, which was a lot of classes could use a two-hander.
right.
And they had Valinir, which basically every other class could use almost. I mean,
That
obviously
was
there
the
was some.
mace. That was the
Yeah,
mace, correct? And then who the staff from Firelands is,
that was Cataclysm.
that's Cataclysm. And I
That was
think
Dragon's Wrath.
that was the last.
Well, they had the daggers.
Oh, and the daggers.
Then that was the end of it. And then it went to Mist where they had the cloaks.
Yeah, and then went to Mist, where they ended up having the cloaks in Mist, and then from there they kind of always blanketed the legendaries,
Because then they had
and
rings.
yeah, they had the rings, and then they
Then it
had
was
the
Legion, which was
then it,
a million legendaries
yeah,
that were random drops.
and now you literally have legendaries up the ass. Pardon my language.
Yeah, mine
Uh,
isn't.
what? You telling me that you couldn't right now go and make a legendary with how much soul ash you probably have?
I don't. I have like 300.
Yeah, lies. No, that's probably true because you don't run it ever.
No, I just keep buying. I keep making them. As I think I have 5 or 6 now.
Yeah, yeah. So I feel like they've taken the uniqueness of legendaries and removed that, which is a real sad thing because I think that the uniqueness of having those legendaries was amazing. One of the best feelings for me was when I had my Warglaive and I was in Battlegrounds and I'm sprinting in Warsong Gulch and seeing people walk away from me because they know that I would just rip them apart with the Warglaive.
Now, granted, he was running to get his corpse because he had just gotten killed.
True story. But I would say that it was amazing to have that little bit of fear from people that they were like, oh my god, this guy actually, let me go away. He's got a Warglaive. Now people don't have that sense of like, oh, like I got this weapon. Like I'm not like waking up going, oh, I get to get more soul ash today on Tuesday and I get to craft another legendary. Like I don't have that. And I think that that's a very sad thing.
Well, and
Uh
I think part
I
of the issue is that they've. My experience. Now, granted, I was a tank back then in original. Is I feel like I know that there were meters, but I don't feel like the meters were focused as highly as they are now. People weren't like focused on the meter saying what percentage are you at, where's your parse percentage compared to everybody else. Like I didn't hear those discussions originally. So legendaries, it didn't feel as if you were completely being gimped because you didn't have the one legendary in your guild. Now obviously you wanted to be that person, but I don't feel like the gap was so severe that it felt like you were just completely worthless. I think now, if they had it like that, the gap would be so big that people would be like, I don't even want you. I want more legendary guys, or I want more of this, I want more of that. So, there's one aspect of the game that has shifted over the years that has partially been the reason I would imagine why they did that, because if you weren't one of those guys, then you were just kind of watching those who did have it. And if we were so, and like now with us being so focused on the numbers, you wouldn't even be able to compete with someone with it.
Now, there's a couple of things that the guys are talking about in chat right now, and it's actually something that I was going to bring up, and you guys have kind of started talking about it. Um, Back in Molten Core, you killed Major Domo. You got one of two really, really cool things. You got the quest for the hunter, bow and staff, or you got the benediction staff. Would you rather have items like that right now than having the ability of everybody getting a legendary? So it's kind of like, okay, I don't have a Thunder Fury, but the Rockdular, like you're saying, Nurgle, a lot of people could not kill those guys to get that bow, or Rockdulir, however you want to pronounce it. How do you feel? Would you rather have a really really difficult quest to allow you to get your legendary, or just to let everybody have a legendary?
See, I'm more around. I think that there can be a combination where there's legendaries and there's a rare legendary that is hard to obtain, and then everybody else can obtain something that's at least reasonably decent, that isn't going to be such a drastic jump that if you don't have it, then you can see a massive gap. And then there could be a raid one that's at a certain level that does certain things, and then there's one that's a legendary that does its own thing. And I think part of the problem is, like we've talked about, it's the same thing with gear. I think that the feeling of obtaining your gear is gone,
Mm-hmm.
because I if I'm not 9 of 10 mythic or a 2400 PvPer, I can gear myself to the vault. And I feel like that motivation, that achievement, that feeling of I've done something with my character is dwindled. It's dwindled away from those players that put in the time and the effort and the energy. Now, yes, they've added achievements, so you get an achievement instead, and you can help gear up your alts and stuff. But I don't feel that sense of, like, when an item drops, it's like, yeah, cool, but then it's like gone, because I might replace that tomorrow in my vault.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I mean, then it was like if you were in molten core and an item dropped, that was it. Like,
Mm-hmm.
that was the apex of what you wanted. And you watch these people now going into, that's the one thing that I am jealous of, is those people that are playing TBC, is they're running heroic dungeons. They went into Karazhan. I saw a couple people in Karazhan, and they got like an item to drop, and they were all like, they were real excited because that was really good. And when's the last time you felt that feeling? I mean, obviously the vault opens, you're like, yeah, I got it, I got what I wanted, or something drops, but 1,000 people to your left have the exact same item that have
Mm-hmm.
gotten in the vault, or you finally get that kill on a mythic boss, and an item that drops in a vault is the same gear. And I don't know, I miss that feeling, and I haven't had it in a long time. That feeling of, wow, I really earned something that was really cool and that was really, I guess, unique,
Yeah.
minus like a mount. Like,
Right.
ooh, I earned a crab mount. Like, that felt cool to me because there's not a ton of people that have it. But I don't know. I think that that's one thing that they've gone away from, that they're missing. They're missing that feeling.
Yeah. I know that I'm missing that excitement of knowing that every single piece of gear I pick up is going to make my character look cooler. Like the gear sets, they don't they aren't they don't make me happy Huh.
There aren't even sets
They're not
anymore.
even sets. It's like,
It's a mishmash of whatever you can
yeah.
pick up.
And I remember when we were going back in. I'm blanking on which dungeon, but the one that makes my monk look like a tiger. So that one of the really really rare dungeons in Legion. But anyway, so like those gear sets looked cool, and you were like, I can go back and do some transmog. Like I have like a thing I can do. I can go back and do that. Now I don't even have anything close to that. So it's like I'm really sad that they kind of have started to teeter away from making things unique and making them more, I guess you could say, global. So bringing it back to the legendaries now, what I was saying before was the legendaries themselves now, you actually have the feeling of making them and the accomplishment of how I'm supposed to feel is not there. How do you feel they should start? Let me rephrase it. Do you feel that they should start implementing those individualized legendaries like they are, like they were back in the day? Back in the day, with my
Well, I
walker and
mean,
cane.
coming with from my point of view, I mean, I would love it, but I don't think that the vast majority of people would enjoy that because there. I guess it depends on where you obtain it and how you obtain it. Because if you force it into the highest difficulty, then you alienate the vast majority of players.
What if you did this? What if you this? The the legendary you're able, let's say Castle Nathria. You go into Castle Nathria, and it has legendaries off of certain bosses that pertain to specific classes. Nurgle, please tell me if my dates are right, but what are we on, 30, 32 weeks, 33 weeks of being in this dungeon? Um, we're talking about legendaries, Charlie. If you haven't gotten that.
Are you
Uh,
talking about going into like the older war type legendary?
today is week 27. So if you could go into Castle Nathria once per week and you get one drop off of a boss randomly, let's say it's a staff, let's say it's a dagger, let's say it's a sword, but it is specifically a legendary, and you can give it to somebody in your raid,
No.
you wouldn't feel that that would be
No.
the equivalent
It
other
only
than
lasts 1 week?
no, it doesn't last. Well, you can keep it permanently. So let's say it would be like a loot drop,
No.
and then
It's
you
too
could
easy.
start. Then you could, but you're still getting one. You still be able to distribute them amongst your group.
But then
But
there's no feeling of you're literally just instead of it being, hey, everybody goes and does Chorgast and gets it in 4 weeks, 5 weeks, you're saying everyone gets it 2 to 3 months.
yeah, it
Everybody
took
gets it.
it took
What's the
me
difference?
it took me almost the 5 6 months of farming a molten core to get my second binding.
Okay.
It took me 7 years of grinding to get my second warglaive.
Okay.
All right, that's a little bit of a time stretch.
Yeah, but 7 years is atypical. And you didn't do it
No,
seven
no.
years every week. You're talking about windows of doing it for 7 years.
Well, I
You
got
didn't.
I
You didn't.
got
You didn't farm it like
I
350
three.
times.
I would say probably three weeks out of a month. I was doing it a lot. That's the only thing I kind of tried to do and I couldn't. Um, but anyway, so what is there another way you would propose than distributing legendaries?
I mean, if you want to
other
have a
than just
legendary,
giving it
I
to
mean,
everybody.
if you want to have a legendary that is based upon effort and it takes time and it's not just literally handed to you, you could do the older war style.
Which was the
That was the mace where you got those little things that dropped, and the or fire lynch style with the staff where you had to pick up loot off of bosses and combine them to make stuff and go through the quest line, and then there was portions of it that the raid had to come together and go in and kill stuff for you to help you obtain it.
Do you think that everyone should be able to do that at the same time?
Um, I go back. I mean, there could be a limit, or you could let everybody do it. And I guess it depends on what you pick. If it's a weapon, I'm still just I'm a big fan of the legendaries or whatever they were from Legion, where everybody had a weapon.
Mm-hmm.
I think you could make it be where you can craft a legendary of the options from obtaining it and let everyone go do it. And that way, it's not all just everyone gets it handed to them; they have to earn it. But then non-raiders don't have the ability to get it. So now you've taken out a big chunk of people who PvP or who do just Mythic pluses.
Mm-hmm.
So there's coming at it from a business standpoint, that doesn't make sense
Mm-hmm.
because there are a lot of people that don't like raiding and they'd rather
Right.
just do Mythic pluses.
Right.
So I think that the problem is that they've spread themselves out into other avenues to get gear, and now there's not really a way to make it universal. Because if you make it in a raid, you're cutting people out.
Right.
So
I could I could
I
see
don't think
that. I
that's
could see
the
that.
answer. I don't know how they bring back that vibe unless they do some kind of questing where it's obtain. There's different legendaries attainable in different areas. Like
I,
like there's a PvP legendary or three that you can pick from. There's a Mythic Plus legendary you can get, and there's a raiding one. And you can once again you can go back to only being able to wear one. You could also even make it to where those legendaries are only wearable in that area. So if you obtain the raid one, you can obtain it and wear it in the raid. If you obtain a Mythic Plus one, you can wear it in the Mythic Plus one. I mean, there's a lot of options on how they want to do it. It just depends on how far they want to go and how deep they want to take it. And, you know, how much grinding do you want to force people? Because I don't know if people want to grind a Mythic Plus one, a raiding one, and a PvP one for those that do everything.
I mean, I think that you kind of. I think you hit almost something to a portion of. I think they should do it like a quest. That actually makes sense. Like if you end up having a quest and saying you need X, Y, and Z things, you guys got to go out and farm those things or whatever they might be. You end up getting them. You bring them back to Cal, whatever.
Anduin.
Yeah, you can bring it back to Anduin, the only person you know of.
Who is this?
Oh my god. You bring them back to whoever it might be, and they just give you your legendary.
Well, I mean, you can make it as hard and as long and as difficult as you want it. Like, I don't think it should be something that is just soloable. It should be something where you need to bring in people, whether it's a raid, whether it's a guild, whether it's just friends.
Right, right. Do
You know,
you,
you could make it to where the raid one has to be obtained through stuff in the raid. The Mythic Plus one has to be obtained through achievements or certain bosses or whatever in a Mythic Plus, where
mm,
you have to go in there and do certain things that are that the difficulty is getting harder and harder. Whether it's an achievement like because some of those achievements from Mythic Pluses or just dungeons are kind of like wonky, where it's like get
mm,
30 stacks of this and then kill this. Like you can make it to where you have to do these weird things and spend time in there to get it, and make it different for every class. So it's not just everyone gets the same quest and everyone does it all at once. No, 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 no. You have to physically make time for your own character. I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of ways, and there's ways to make it where if you had to go through all these different things and it was like all these different quests and all these different achievements, when you got it, you would feel a certain way. And if it was specific to each class and you got to pick the one you wanted, like that would make it to where when you got it, you have it. And you
mm,
would know that if you have the raid one, you're the only raiders have it. You won't see Mythic Plusers
yeah,
with it.
yeah, yeah. I'm agreeing with you. And Nurgle, I'm not talking about cloaks and rings. I'm talking about specifically like having. We have legendaries now that have special abilities on them. They would be unique to the classes. I'm not talking about them being uh, what's it called them being the same for everybody. Like a quest like the Kosarar is a great thing.
Yeah,
That stuff was fun.
I loved farming the Quasar when I went for it. I remember I was one of those people
Yeah,
that I think that they changed the rules because of me for dungeons, because we used to go into Dire Mall, and I think the one time I did it, I think I went in and out 800 times in one day. And like a couple weeks later, they changed the rule and they said you can only do 5 an hour. Because I used to have no, I don't know if you were you around then. It was me and
yeah.
four or five friends, and I said just
I
zone
wasn't
in,
part of the
look for the
group.
box, zone back out, zone in, look for the box, zone back out, and we just sat there for hours, zoning in and out, and just resetting it over and over and over and over and over and over. And we counted; it was like 800 or 900 times in one day, just because we wanted to get the book to drop. I didn't want to pay for it, and
Right.
we got it. We finally got it to drop, and then I ended up getting it. But I remember farming that, and it was hours of doing it. And
Yeah.
but when you got it, it was cool.
Yeah.
It was a really cool moment when you earned that, and it could take you weeks, it could take you months. Now you go into Choregas and you just swing at a couple mobs for 15 minutes for a couple weeks, and then there you go. Here's your legendary. Now go back and we'll upgrade it for you.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think this expansion they kind of did something a little unique. Um, First of all, I think the Kosarar is a freaking awesome, cool looking weapon. I think it's also a really cool quest line. I never got to do any of those really unique quest lines other than the Thunder Fury one. Um, but would you rather? Okay. Would you rather have legendaries or covenant abilities? And I'm just talking specifically the abilities. I'm not talking the soul binds.
Okay.
Because I
So like convoke.
so yes, like could you
Okay.
have like if you were like I want to be a Night Fae, I want to have convoke. That's all I got. Well, like or whatever you'd prefer to do. Like, would you rather those? Sorry about that, guys. Apparently, my computer wants to update something. Would you? So yeah. So would you rather the covenant ability or the legendary?
We already have legendaries. Are you
We
talking
have
about removing
both.
legendaries
Yes,
or one or the other?
one or the other. I don't know why my computer keeps wanting to
Oh,
do this firmware
I would
update.
remove legendaries all day long. The current state legendaries all day long.
You would.
Yes, I one of my biggest complaints about my warrior initially was being vent there was I didn't get anything new. Literally execute shifted.
Yeah.
So it all these other classes got these AEs or these cool abilities, and my execute changed icons basically. Now that I went Night Fae, Ancient Aftershock, I think it looks really cool. I think it is a really cool little ability. It functions well. It has utility, and that's another thing is that I felt like when I was went there, when I went tanking, like no, I'm not using this
Mm-hmm.
because it costs rage as a tank. So having Ancient Aftershock as a prot warrior, it's not the best, but it has a use and it's
Mm.
useful all the time when it's up. So I would rather give us something that does something like that than, oh, here's your legendary that lets whatever it may be. It.
And you feel.
I don't think that the legendary does enough that makes you feel like I'm legendary, as a covenant ability makes you feel unique and gives you this instant gratification of a
Mm-hmm.
feeling that you got something better.
Yeah, and you feel the same way with your shaman and your druid.
Sure. Yeah. My druid loves the legendary.
Oh well,
I would probably give up convoke on my druid to keep that thrash
to keep
legendary.
Thresh legendary. And the
I
funny
would
thing is that
all day long.
I had to convince you to get the Thresh
It
legendary.
wasn't even so much you had to
I was
convince me. I
like, you
just
should
hadn't
get the.
tried it.
I was like, you need to get the Thresh legendary, and you're like, I heard this one was good. I'm like, no, you need the Thresh
And
legendary.
it's stupid.
There
It's
you go.
overpowered. It's overpowered in every way. The fact that I can pull 20 mobs and do 15k heals and not have my hit points move is it's gross.
Yeah.
It needs to be nerfed a little bit, I think. But regardless, obviously now that we've talked about it, yeah, I can see how it goes both ways. There are certain classes I'd rather keep the legendary, and there are certain classes I'd rather keep the Covenant ability, but I think overall the Covenant abilities are more unique,
Mm-hmm.
surprisingly. Even though everyone's the same, I think they're
Yeah,
more unique than a legendary that we've
I
had
agree.
every expansion that's been the same for everybody. Like this is Legion 2.0 where you get to pick, obviously Legion you had to find a legendary to drop, but basically you wanted the same couple legendaries. It's the same thing now. It's just another item that's 10 item levels higher, or
Yeah,
whatever it is higher, and it has an ability to it. But you don't feel anything like special about it. You just feel like everyone has to get it. Go get your item.
yeah. I see. I really like the Covenant abilities because I feel like because I am able to see them coming off, I feel that they are more powerful and I feel like they have more of a oomph behind them. Like when I'm on my pally, like dropping Ashen Hollow, it's amazing. I can see the Ashen Hollow. I can see everyone's health going up. I can see my damage going up. That feels good. The legendary, which is the Holy Shock legendary that puts a bubble on a guy, I don't really see it. I can feel it because of heals and stuff like that, because they're, with the healing. But if I had the option, I would take Ashen Hollow.
Yeah, I mean I agree because like I use the
With
ring, and the
yeah,
ring is basically it's going to give me when I use Reckless, I'm either gonna get Blade Storm or I'm gonna get what's the other one? Avatar.
yeah,
And I always have my fingers crossed depending upon the situation, which one I want to go off.
mm-hmm,
If it's a boss, I'm like, don't Blade Storm, don't Blade Storm,
yeah,
don't Blade Storm. And I have to, and then there I go. I start spinning like you idiot.
yeah,
What are you? You're a moron. I don't want that. And
yeah,
it's one of those things where when it goes off correctly, you see your numbers go way up all of a sudden. Like if it's an
yeah,
AE pack and I get to charge in and
yeah.
whirlwind into a recklessness Blade Storm, and then rampage into another Blade Storm, like that's crazy when you get to double
It's
Blade Storms.
it's like when you see a druid convoke and you hit those full moons.
Yeah.
And I was laughing because we were running a dungeon yesterday, and Toxeris, I see her invoke, and literally I just see her chain shoot 6 star surges in a row. It was just like surge, 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 and then I see a full moon come down. I'm like, what the hell is that? I'm
Yeah.
like, there's no way I can compete with damage with that. That's
Well, no,
ridiculous.
no, there's nothing
I was
anybody.
like,
Like, there's certain
that's
classes where if it goes
ridiculous.
off right, it's over. Like they're just gonna blow by
Yeah, yeah,
everybody.
yeah, yeah. But those that feeling feels good. Like for my legendary, let's say for my monk, like okay, I get increased haste. Yippee! If I wanted to do
Ooh.
DPS. Oh, I want to heal for more when I do fist weaving. Yay for 12 seconds. Like they don't feel they don't feel like they're legendary-ish.
Correct. Well, because you're comparing it to the original legendaries, which were rare, wildly rare,
Yeah,
wildly
that's
unique.
yes, exactly.
And when you saw it, you knew you saw it because you would see
Right.
either a huge spike in damage, a huge spike in healing, and also the unique look because back then you couldn't transmog.
Mhm.
And so you could tell when someone had it and
Oh
you'd
yeah.
run from it or you would be really happy to have someone with it. But now, since everyone has it, it's just an item. It's just,
Yeah.
it's literally, it's a piece of everybody's gear. And I would say, what, 98% of players were the same item.
Mhm.
I mean, I don't know of a Fury Warrior that's not using the. Well, I mean, I don't know if it's necessarily the ring, but I don't know of a Fury Warrior that's not using that specific legendary. Like
Yeah.
they don't exist. Everyone uses the same one,
Yeah.
and I'm guessing it's the same for almost every class. So
Y-
obviously there might be some instances
Variations. Yeah.
where I think the Demon Hunter has like a DPS one and a tank one. So depending upon if you're trying to do more damage or do more mitigation, then you're gonna pick the one that you want.
Yeah.
Also depending upon the difficulty,
Yeah.
but
If Dots
most
is
of the
in chat,
time.
if Dots is in chat, can we fact check that, please?
But most of the time, I would say people wear the vast, vast, vast majority of players wear the same one,
Mhm.
and that's not special anymore. You've taken the uniqueness out of the legendaries because everyone has one. Just like with Legion, or in BFA, did you feel special with your cloak?
I did not feel special with
It was
my
just a
cloak.
cloak.
No,
it
the
was,
only
it was an
the
item.
only the only time that I liked having my legendary cloak in BFA was once I got the stat upgrade.
Well, sure. I mean, obviously there were like levels to it where you would hit certain
Hmm.
breakpoints and you'd feel it stronger, but you didn't feel special for having your cloak
Oh no, not
at
at all,
any moment.
not at all. What? How do you feel? Because back in Legion, you can implant your weapons, your artifact weapons, with the skill trees to
Loved it.
make your weapons stronger. The soul binds are essentially the same thing, are they not? They're
I,
just
I,
they're
I
just a little
suppose.
different.
I suppose.
Do you think those soul binds are are useful because of the way that you're allowed to kind of mix and match?
Well, sure. The issue that I see with this is that they've gone in so many different directions. It makes for normalizing people really tough because you have so many moving parts. You have between your legendaries, between your gear, between your covenants, between your conduits. All of a sudden, there's so many factors that it's like a big deck of cards made into a big tree or something, and you pull one piece out,
Mm-hmm.
the whole thing kind of just. And that's why they have such a hard time normalizing because everything's so
Mm-hmm.
integrated with each other that once you change someone's DPS numbers or someone's healing numbers in one aspect, all the other numbers go haywire.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that's one of the problems with what they're doing is that instead of just focusing on something and getting it to where it works well and making it be something that's useful, they're trying to branch into basically everything they've done in the past 4 or 5 expansions and have a piece of it somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
And you could see it. I mean, there's that wasn't that one of the major reasons why they had to delay the beginning because they were trying to normalize everyone's numbers and everything was going wrong, and then they would shift the number of conduits from 4 to 3, and then from 3 to 2, and then back to 3, and then they're doing this with the legendaries. Then they had this huge nerf before the expansion even came out with legendaries because they were so far off base once they started actually using them. Like you're going in too many directions. But I
Mm-hmm.
I liked it in the weapon. I thought it worked well when it was specifically in the weapon. But
Right,
now
right.
it's they're too wide.
Mm-hmm.
Shrink it back down.
Right. The and yes, I can see you guys what you're talking about in chat. Yes, they're not exactly the same. The the artifact weapon trees in comparison to conduits,
Well,
yes, they
sure.
are different. I'm talking about the
The vibe.
generalization.
The vibe to it.
Yes, the generalization of it, of being able to implement what you want into your weapon or your person, your soulbind, and things like that. That's kind of the way I'm thinking of it. Um, Thankfully, I know Moggom knows my train of thought of how I'm thinking, and I'm not just a weird
Yeah.
person. So, um,
Because you're not saying that it actually is the same thing. You're just saying
mm,
that having the trees, originally they had the talent trees where you could kind of just go the way you wanted and you could be,
mm,
24, 10, 5 or whatever it was, the talent trees for the 3 different specs. And then they kind of went away from that and then they brought it back and then they went to the Legion tree inside the weapon, and now they've brought it back again into the Shadowlands conduits, where it's
mm,
you get some kind of choice in the matter of what you are and who you are and what you want.
right, right. Dodds was saying Legion was too good with what they gave us with artifacts, weapons, trees, relics, and legendaries. Nothing they can really do now will make us feel as good with our classes. Lego's conduits get balanced by being nerfed to the ground to the point you don't really notice having those systems that they feel good to have.
Correct. I would agree with that 100%.
Yeah.
They've nerfed that stuff down so hard that having it cool, but it's not
Mm,
necessarily a vital thing. And I think that that's also part of the problem is that because the conduits got nerfed down so hard, something that would have been, I don't want to say exciting, but would have been exciting to go farm to increase your conduit levels became literally a chore
yeah.
where you're
I
like, Go ahead.
I personally was excited for the soul conduits the most out of everything this expansion. Um, and I feel very let down by them because
Yeah.
I thought that this was going to allow me to make my character more unique. And then I look at it and I go, all right, well, everyone's just going with the same conduits, the same soul binds, the same everything just to go through because people are trying to just min max it.
Well,
And
I mean, and then on top of that, farming, like I said, farming them up, you would think like, oh, I'm going to farm them up because I'm going to increase my character, and you'd farm it up, and you'd feel it's like a 0.01% change or something. Like you get
mm-hmm,
1/10 of a second higher, and you're like, is it worth 30 minutes in the mall every day so I can do it once every other day and increase one of them, which by the way, 95% of them I don't even use. So I'm going to do it for a month to get 0.1 seconds on one of my conduits.
yeah,
Like, yeah, that was, I mean, I did it, but like, I don't notice a, a
yeah,
variation in my
yeah,
numbers because of it. The only thing I noticed is that rally cry lasts longer. And my rally cry feels like it lasts forever
mm-hmm.
when I cast it because I've increased it so much. But outside of that, there's no real variation
For
there.
me, every single time I use my Rising Sun kick, it brings down my cooldown of revival. So I've actually figured it out that I'm bringing down my revival almost down by like almost a minute with it by its entirety by the time that the whole thing is said and done.
Well, that's not bad.
So which I think is really really nice and really really good to have. So
Yeah, but I'm
um
talking comparing that from 200 to 226. What's the
oh yeah,
what's the gap? Is it like half a second? A
oh yeah,
couple
it's
seconds? Like I think that the shift is so minimal that that's my
yeah,
issue is that
yeah,
they nerfed it down so hard that as you increase it, there's not a big gap anymore, which I think
mm-hmm,
that there should have been a bigger gap
mm-hmm.
to where there's an actual benefit to going through the time to level it up.
Are you excited to see what they're going to be implementing for Shadows of Domination? I think just
Sure.
so
Anything better
so
than what we're doing right now.
it'll be hopefully it'll be another topic, kind of like what if scenarios. But I just wanted to say that I'm kind of hoping that Shadow of Domination brings us a little bit of a change to our I'm sorry, Chains of Domination. I'm sorry. Um, thank you, Nurgle. Uh, I don't know where my brain is right now.
Never.
Has an increased improvement for our legendaries and our conduits, and makes us feel a little bit stronger than what we are now. Because I feel like we are very much lacking in that aspect. So, um, so all in all, what's your final thoughts on legendaries?
I wish they would do something to make it a little more unique. That's
Yeah,
all.
yeah,
Do something where it's not everybody has a legendary and they're all the same and it's
mm-hmm.
just another item. Like if
Yeah,
legendary was meant to be a status symbol or something that felt good to get or felt accomplishment. And now it's just an item in your inventory that everybody has and nobody cares. And I
mm-hmm.
think that they need to go back, if they want to make there be a level between where there's like an item everybody gets that's an epic, or if they want to add a slot in between, whatever,
Mm-hmm.
you know, like an artifact item.
Yeah,
Because they had artifact weapons. Make an artifact item that everybody can achieve, and then
yeah.
add legendaries on top. That's fine, but the idea of legendary is gone.
Well, isn't there like a isn't aren't we supposed to be getting like a legendary bow or something for like from Sylvanas? Next, that I would consider a legendary, not
I don't.
the
I'll
stuff
be
that we
honest.
have.
I don't.
But you don't follow hunters.
No, not even that. I don't follow. I don't follow 9.1 too closely because they shift things
Oh
so dramatically
yeah,
that I get. I don't want to say emotional, but I get invested into a certain
Mm-hmm.
thing, and then it gets changed. And so I'd rather just kind of listen on the outside very minorly and not go up and down with
Right.
the emotions of what's happening, and wait till they're super close and then go in and read everything and see, because even that's going to get shifted after a week and everybody actually
Mm-hmm.
tests it.
Two things. One, Dodds, you and Solex said the same thing. Um, yeah, just don't call them legendaries.
That's
Just
what I said.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, he just said
Call
call
them
it.
something
He
else.
said call it rune carving. Done.
That's fine.
Done.
And well, that's
Done.
why I said you could have artifact, because they have
Yeah.
artifact weapons. You can make an artifact item and then have actual legendaries if you want to go back to having
Oh yeah.
legendaries.
Oh, I
Or just
agree.
remove legendaries
Yeah.
if that's the way they want to do it, then do it. But don't have these faux legendaries, because
Yeah.
it's not. It's, let's be honest. Call a spade a spade. It's not a legendary.
Right.
It's just not
Right. Right. And I agree. Make legendaries stronger.
legendary.
Yeah. Make them stronger. Make them feel good. Make them enjoyable. Something that like I strive to get. Not, hey, I have to go now farm Soul Ash to upgrade my legendary, which is what I am going to be doing
Update my rune carving.
in just a little bit. It's gonna be okay, Nurgle. Just someone needs to hug Nurgle. He's not gonna get his orange legendaries
Oh
anymore.
no. Yeah.
Yes, yes. All right, everybody. Thank you very much for hanging out with us again. We are going to be opening up our vaults very shortly. So everyone, good luck on your vaults today. Dream big, keep gaming. Moggom, where can we find you?
Twitch.tv/xmogomx. I'm around one way or another. I do runs with Peter. I raid with Peter. Snalydo, sorry.
It's fine.
And just look, you'll find me. I'm
Yes,
around.
yes. You know me. You know my times. I'm here all the time. 9 to 2, 7 to 11 every day. And Moggom runs carries on Saturdays with the guys. We do them on Mondays and Thursdays. We have guild raids on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. Fridays, I don't know. I think we're gonna be changing up Friday nights a little bit, and that'll something that everyone will have to keep an eye on. So, anyway, good luck, everybody. Have a great day with your vaults. I will see you all soon. Bye, everybody. Have
All right.
a
Have a
good
good
one.
day. Good luck.